Okay, what you can see is the old coach road going down to the ford across the Wallandilly. Just goes around this curve down to the river. There's the mill. That's where the mill was built, here next to the ford. I haven't been down to the ford, but it must climb up a gradual slope on the other side somewhere. I mean, the road's long abandoned obviously, but it's just shows you the kind of conditions pioneers had to endure in the old sulkies and bullock drays and stagecoaches. And this would have just been a dusty mess with all the traffic that would have been on it. And the big bullock drays would be picking up the bagged flour at the mill, I guess. Wonderful piece of Australiana. Well, good day everyone. Welcome to another little adventure video. Today I'm at the ruins of the Pomeroy Flour Mill in New South Wales. So this Pomeroy Mill was a water wheel mill. What you can see there is where the water flume would have come up on those stone abutments, and the old wooden axle for the wheel is still there. Now the wheel's gone. It would have been wood obviously with the to drive the mechanism of the grinding inside the mill. It's been abandoned since the early 1900s. Well over 100 years it's looked like this. Very old building, one of the earliest stone buildings in the area. Beautiful bit of colonial, remote area as it was then, construction. Let's have a look around the ruins of the Pomeroy Mill. Okay, the water wheel was powered by the Wallandilly River. As you can see, we're quite high above it there, but about a mile in that direction there's a stone wall. I can see it way up in the distance, but I'm not going to go up there because the blackberries are rampant. So the water was pulled out of the river about a mile up, ran along this stone flume work, up the side of the bank as the water level dropped in the river itself, then across this little bridge area to the water wheel, which was there. It's a 3-storey building and entirely water powered. There are not many of these old mills left in Australia really, and this is one of the earliest examples. But wonderful bit of engineering to put all this construction work. The rock work goes for almost a mile in that direction to pick the water up out of the river, because the Wallandilly's permanent water of course. Plus you can pan gold in it too if you've got that kind of interest, which I have, but I'm not going to do it today. And run the water here in a lovely little shallow gradient to drive that water wheel. Let's have a look inside the building. Actually there's a few blackberries on, I might have a snack later. Okay, here's a great view of the mill building itself. What a beautiful old building, a picturesque spot on the river. Would have been very remote in the 1820s, but I'll show you the track I walked down. The reason the mill was built here, because this was an old coach road and there was a ford in the river just down here. So basically bullock wagons could take out the bagged flour into town and on to Sydney, I guess, wherever the markets were for the flour. Now why was it abandoned? Well, 2 reasons. Much larger mills to process the grain in the area were built in Goulburn, which isn't far from here, and eventually the wheat fields weren't required and it developed into a sheep farming area, because wheat went further west where there's a lot of land and lots of room to do that kind of thing, massive wheat farms. So competition eventually or ultimately ruined this mill, because it was no longer economic, because there were bigger mills in town, less remote. They're actually in town in Goulburn, and this being out here where it is had transport costs and all sorts of things, and it closed. And I'll put the historical information on when it was built and when it closed and that kind of thing, or I'll voice it over. But we'll just take a minute to enjoy these old ruins. Okay, let's have a look inside the mill. At least there's no blackberries up here in the paddock. I guess the sheep more up in this area. Sheep and blackberries don't really go together. Look at these massive sandstone lintels. Sill. That timber's still in place. Like I said, it's been ruined for over 100 years. It looked like this in the 1920s, which was 100 years ago. Okay, here's the mill floor. As you can see, there was an upper floor where the beams were set into the stone there. Some nice windows for a bit of breeze. Big timbers coming across to that first floor. And I guess the millstone was down in here, in this pit of blackberries, as it is now. Oh yeah, there's a little doorway there for the lower level. Wooden platform. Water wheel's just located just outside there. So I guess the big grinding stone, I wouldn't imagine it's still there. They probably moved that somewhere else and reused it, or I guess they wore out too, because they were generally sandstone, I guess, and they wore out. And the grinding wheel's all gone, and the mechanism to drive it from the water wheel, I'm not sure where that mechanism came through that wall. Wouldn't have thought it through that window. Maybe that aperture there. Let's just enjoy this beautiful old stonework. What a magnificent building. Bringing civilization to the bush in the early 1800s, it would have been a special place to be around and be working. Let's have a look around the outside. We've got a bit of graffiti going on here, but I don't know how old that is. Fortunately, it's well preserved because it's not easy to get to. You wouldn't want easy access to this because it'd be a mess. There's another doorway there actually, so to the lower level. There's a bit of ironwork down there. Let's go and have a look outside. See, the Wallendelly goes around a corner here, a big bend, and that ford is just down in that bend. Must have been shallow bedrock area. Beautiful stonework. Local river rock. A lot of mortar required. Look at this, where you can see where they've actually troweled, or there's finger marks in the construction of the mortar when they were packing the mortar into the rocks. Look at that. That's beautiful. That's real history right there. And they've run some sort of troweling tool, I guess, to trowel it off and then clean the mortar off the exposed stone, especially the sandstone lintels and that kind of thing. Yeah, it's definitely been a steel trowels run across the face of it. There's something up in here. A couple of marks in the sandstone. I'm not sure what. No, it's not graffiti, but it's definitely been inscribed. Oi, oi. This is the flood bench of the Wallandilly. As you can see, it's fairly thickly vegetated, apart from the blackberries, the native vegetation. Obviously this flood's very deep. When you get the big floods like we've had the last 12 months or so. Hence the mill being so high up on the hill and the water race to pick up the water being well upstream. And that way it wasn't affected by any flooding in the river. And they had a constant supply of good fresh water to run the water wheel. Let's try one of these blackberries. Oh, beautiful and sweet. You wouldn't go hungry down in here. You got food and water. Yum. Let's get another one here. Love eating these when I was a kid because they used to grow around all the industrial ruins and the old railway lines. Oh. Great stuff. Organic food. Well, I hope you enjoyed that little walk around the ruins of the Pomeroy Flour Mill. A wonderful piece of Australian colonial history. Thanks for watching. See you next time.